What's going on there, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Craftavore Tastes, and today we're digging into some shelf beer time in the form of from Harpoon Brewery out of Boston, Massachusetts, and Windsor, Vermont. This is their Dunkin Coffee Porter. So, yeah, this is actually a limited release from Harpoon that came out recently, and it's a collaboration with Dunkin' Donuts, and it basically takes Harpoon's Porter and mixes it with Dunkin' Donuts espresso blend coffee to create a Dunkin' Coffee Porter. All right, so wanted to kind of review this beer simply because it's a limited release, as I mentioned, and I believe it's only being released across the Northeast, if I'm not mistaken. I know Harpoon is, generally speaking, a national brand to some degree. They are not available in every single state in the country, but they do have a large distribution footprint across the country. And they are actually the 12th largest craft brewery in the country and the 19th largest brewery in total. So, big brewery. But I did want to kind of review it just for a couple of different reasons. The first, obviously, being it's got a little bit of hype going on in the Northeast. I wouldn't necessarily say from beer geeks themselves, but just more kind of like the general population, right? Anytime you kind of see, a collaboration between a pretty well-known brewery, and then obviously at this point, a pretty iconic brand like Dunkin' Donuts, who has almost become as equally known for their coffee now as they have their donuts, which is an interesting case study in how to, really kind of build upon your brand or kind of reinvigorate your brand. But story for another day. But shelf beer. Figured I'd give it a go, and we'll see kind of how she is. All right. So again, Dunkin' Coffee Porter is a coffee porter. It's coming in at 6% ABV and 28 IBUs, and like I mentioned, it is pretty much a mashup of Harpoon's Porter and Dunkin' Donuts, specifically their espresso blend coffee. All right. So let's go ahead. I'm not going to pop a top. We're going to actually take a cap off this time of this bottle. Let's get straight into the drill, man. Let's remove that cap, take a look at the appearance, get the aroma tasted, and of course we're going to rate it. All right. Cap off she goes. 12-ounce bottle, obviously. Got it lined up. Get that guy nicely straight into a glass. Set it off to the side. All right, so how does she look? So beer comes in absolutely jet black. Obviously, I'm kind of using a pub style glass here, but a couple of fingers of just this kind of like nice kind of mocha kind of brownish kind of head. Looks super awesome. The head in and of itself is pretty dense. It's pretty thick, which is kind of cool. A little bitty kind of compact bubbles kind of going on. Looks pretty awesome, man. Like, it looks like a porter. All right, so let's go ahead and give ourselves an aroma. Woo! So, being a coffee porter, what would you think this would smell like? Smells like coffee. All right, so huge, intense espresso coffee beans. Like, yeah, it's got a mix of kind of like that freshly kind of ground kind of espresso bean going on. Mixed with a little bit of roasted malts. Perhaps even like a little chocolate kind of going on there as well. But really, it's just massive, massive, intense coffee espresso, crushed up ground beans. It's also kind of got that layer a little bit of like older coffee. It's kind of like a mixture of the two, right? Like you're at work and somebody leaves coffee in the coffee machine. You come in the next day and that's pretty much like what the kitchen smells like. Yeah, so it's got that, but it also has that super kind of intense, kind of fresh ground coffee mixed together as well, which is kind of interesting because usually it's kind of one or the other. But this kind of does have elements of both, which is interesting. But it's intense. It's intense. It is coffee, coffee, coffee for days. All right, so let's go ahead and give ourselves a taste. Cheers. Wow. Surprising. Quite nice. I take that back. I don't know why I said surprising. Harpoon's a decent brewery, right? They're a large-sized brewery. And I don't want to actually, say that I thought that I had, preconceived notions of what I thought this beer was going to be. Or perhaps maybe, took down my expectation level a little bit. I didn't. What's super nice about this beer is if you love coffee and you like intensely roasted espresso-like coffee, you are going to love this beer. That's exactly what this tastes like. And quite frankly, one more sip. It is a well-done beer at that. Coming in at 6% ABV, obviously, and being a porter in and of itself, it is not a stout. So the mouthfeel is obviously going to be a little bit less, right? It's not really all that kind of fudgy or sticky or, it doesn't really have a tremendous amount of body behind it. But what it does have in its place is just a really kind of intense espresso coffee forward beer that's actually quite well balanced, to be perfectly honest with you. At 6% ABV, it goes down easy. It's a really nice, well crafted beer. Again, I hate to say it, but yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. This is actually super, super nice. It's really well done for what it is. Going back in for another taste, and then I'll rate it. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Roasted malts, a little bit of kind of chocolate coming through actually at the back end of the kind of palate. It comes almost kind of like a milk chocolate deal kind of going on. But again, if you don't like coffee, or if you don't like super intense coffee, and I don't know why you would be buying this beer if you don't, but in case you do, it's super intense from a coffee perspective. And, obviously when you're brewing a beer that's called a coffee porter and you are collaborating with Dunkin' Donuts, I would hope that you would get a coffee, super intensely, coffee flavored beer and forward beer. That's exactly what this is. All right, rating time. So, the Harpoon and Dunkin' Donuts Dunkin' Coffee Porter coming in at 6% ABV. I'm going to give that beer a 3.75 caps. Yeah, absolutely. Nice, really well done beer that kind of takes both of these two collaborators, obviously Harpoon's beer and then Dunkin's coffee, mixes them together, and it just kind of showcases what they do best, man. There's really not much more that you're going to be able to get out of a 6% ABV porter, but I thought they did a really, really nice job. I can understand how some people may consider this to be a little bit on the gimmicky side. I get it. But you know what? If you're out there and you kind of see this sitting on the shelves and you're interested to kind of check it out, it's worth a buy. All right, so 3.75 caps for the Craftavore Taste. That'll do it for this episode. Hope you join me again for another episode where I drink, I review, I rate, and I repeat. Cheers.